Welcome to LSC. It's Sports Time. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Today I have a very special guest in William Beverly, principal over Lindsay, well, I call it junior high, but it's middle school now. And welcome, I'm glad to have you here.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
We're going to go back when you were a kid, because you've got a tremendous background that I just think is fantastic, how you used everything that you've got from playing ball right up to using what you're doing over at Lindsay, and I think it's tremendous.
Yes, sir.
When you started playing rec ball.
I did.
And who'd you start with?
I started at Northampton Little League, and I was blessed. My parents, Roberta and John Beverly, made provisions for me and my family and my brothers to be able to play football. And my first coach was a detective. I believe he's a retired detective now, Johnny Patterson.
Okay.
And that was my first year ever experiencing contact football, and I'll never forget it. I actually played on the offensive line.
Okay.
And, didn't know any different, but right. You know, I just knew that it was constant contact, and I kind of liked it. So began that career at an early age. Okay,
but then you continued right on through, and then when you got over to Jeff Davis, they was middle school then too, so you still had to play rec league before you got to Bethel High School.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was fortunate enough to continue to play, and played under the Dibblers for Northampton as well, Dave and Brian Dibbler, and we played at Northampton Intermediates. Played for them for 2 years. I believe that was my 7th and 8th grade year. And we actually captured a championship, I believe, my 8th grade year with the Dibblers. And, you know, they really impacted myself and the kids that I was playing with, so much so that when I went on and got married later on in life, I actually invited both of the Dibblers back to my wedding. And they both came, and, you know, it was just a blessing to see them. And I wanted to let them know how much they impacted me as a young child. And I wanted to show that gratitude.
Well, and that does happen, and a lot of people don't know it unless somebody lets them know, yeah, how much they impacted their life when they were growing up. And correct. I've known the Dibblers because they went through Bethel High School, so I got to know them when I was over there as Dean of Boys. That's a correct. Tremendous story. And then you get to go to Kozlowski.
I do.
Bethel.
I do. And Coach Koz, he was an extraordinary coach, a disciplinarian.
Right.
And Coach Koz, some of the values and things that he taught myself and the kids that I played with, we still use those same values to make decisions as we go through life right now. He was extremely tough, extremely discipline-oriented coach, and right. Like I said, those values have been captured, I think, in my life right now.
Right, so. But you didn't play line.
No, I didn't.
Now you get over there, you're running the ball. People are going to hit you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fortunately, I figured out that I wasn't a lineman, and it wasn't in my genetic pool to play line very long. So I was blessed enough to start as a sophomore at defensive back for Bethel High School, and remained a starter right on through my high school years. My junior and senior year, I actually started both at tailback and defensive back, partially my junior year, but all of my senior year at both of those positions.
What's some of the team members? Can you remember someone who was on your team back then?
You know what? I had the fortunate opportunity this weekend. I went to a wedding. Darren Fullwood got married this weekend. And at that wedding was almost like a reunion, because Jason Wallace was there, and Brian Ponton, and Darren, of course, he was the gentleman that got married. And I also played with a gentleman by the name of Carl Francis.
Now, Carl Francis with the NFL, was he there? Did he make it?
He didn't make it down. I believe he's still dealing with some of the labor strikes that's going on right now.
He's got his plate pretty full now.
Yes, sir. And Carl and I actually were roommates in college as well. So that kind of goes way back. But those are some of the folks that I played with at Bethel. It's just numerous. I also played with Todd Kelly, who went on to play for the San Francisco 49ers, was a first-round overall draft pick, and several other fine athletes that came out of Bethel at that time.
Now, the whole experience with Kozlowski, I watch him on the sideline, and people talk about him, but he really imparts the values, and people don't realize how much of a disciplinarian he is unless you really watch him on the sideline, and you can see. But he's got the kids' best interest at heart.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
it just goes without saying.
Yes, sir. He was an awesome coach. At the time, we didn't think so. We had some tough practices. You had to bring your A game not only to games but to practice, because it was going to be a mental battle to make it through practice at that time.
Right.
That preparation allowed us to be able to go into the games with a confidence level that we needed to be able to overcome a lot of circumstances that came up in a game. So that was just, it was monumental as we were going through those
Right.
years at high school.
Now, you brought up a story about when we were televising one of your games, and I want you to relate that story, because I think that's really, because I forgot I did this.
Well, I tell you, technology is something, because when we were in high school, you guys actually came out to our field and you all interviewed us prior to my senior year. We were playing Hampton High School for the district championship. That would have been in the fall of '86,
Okay.
playing them for the district championship. But my junior year, we actually played Hampton High, and you all televised it. And I believe Cuz was showing me some favor and was making sure that I got the ball quite a bit. And you ended up alluding to me as the bread and potatoes, the meat and potatoes guy. And so I think I told you about that, and I need to find that tape, because
I'd like to see that.
I'd like for my kids to be able to have an opportunity to see, their dad later on in life. And,
Well, then you left Hampton, you got recruited,
Yes,
went
sir.
to Virginia Union, played for a tremendous coach up there,
Yes, sir.
Joe Taylor.
Played for Joe Taylor, yes, sir. Coach Taylor is currently the head coach at FAMU, Florida A&M University, down in Tallahassee. And Coach Taylor was, again, he was a disciplinarian. So when I got there, I already had the preparation that I needed to be mentally tough just to make it through practices. Coach Taylor believed in recruiting and over-recruiting. So my freshman year, there were 100 freshmen on campus trying out for the team. So, you had to be mentally tough just to make it through tour days. And I was fortunate enough to play 4 years. I led it all 4 years. As a true freshman, I was able to travel and do some of the things that freshmen would like to do in their first year. And I played several positions in college. I actually got recruited as a defensive back, but Coach Taylor also recruited down south, so I realized that I was slow when I got to college.
You weren't as fast.
I wasn't as fast as I thought I was. I actually ran a 4.5, but as far as a 40-yard dash. But when I got there, 4.4 and 4.3 were commonplace for defensive backs. So I was moved down to strong safety. And I started at strong safety my sophomore year partially, and then my junior year I started partially. Then I was fortunate enough, they changed the defense from a 5-3 to a 4-3, brought in Coach Costa, who is now the head coach at St. Aug down in North Carolina. He brought in the 4-3 defense, and that allowed me to play the weak side linebacker. And at that weak side linebacker, my primary responsibility was to go up the field, contain, and just make something happen when I got back, to be disruptive. And I had a great time doing that, and started my whole senior year at Virginia Union doing that. We went 12-0 that year, and ended up losing the CIAA championship to was Winston-Salem and Yancey Thigpen in that group that came through there. Yes, sir.
Well, I got a plaque here that I think is rather interesting. You got that when you were playing on television. They were televising. You got the Player of the Game award.
Yes, sir. This was at Fayetteville State University in North Carolina. That was my senior year. And again, just fortunate enough, Coca-Cola, and I think they still do that. They have a Player of the Game.
Right.
And I believe that particular game, my team as well as myself were extremely successful. I had, I believe, 15 tackles that game, and was rewarded Player of the Game. The funny story about that, Coach Hintz, every week they would have a defensive CIAA Player of the Week. And Coach Battle, James Battle, his son is currently the head coach at Virginia Union now. He called me down to the athletic director's office and informed me that I should have won that award. But he said you were beaten out by some guy named Incormedius.
Oh, no.
Miguel Incormedius. And Miguel was playing for Hampton University at that time.
Right.
And that was one of the games that I should have got, that he said that, I should have gotten.
And there's a history with that whole family at Bethel High School.
Exactly. And Miguel and I laugh about that at this time, but he was well deserving of that reward. Because he had an excellent game. That was Hampton University versus Virginia Union.
How about that? Well, as you went through this program up there, and you ended up with a degree in social
work.
Social work.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And where did that take you?
Well, when I came back, initially the first job that the first real job, I should say, that I was able to get in the football circle, and it's like a fraternity. Mr. Bernie West, Coach West, I would call him, he actually gave me an opportunity at Newport News Juvenile Detention. And so he sat in, and of course I had to go through an interview process and everything.
Right.
But God, as well as Mr. West, showed favor on me, and that was my first job. And I worked at juvenile detention for about a year and a half.
Okay.
I then went over to Newport News Social Services, where I was a residential social worker. Worked with older kids anywhere from 11 to 21 years old that were in custody of the state.
Right.
Well, while doing that, I began coaching at Bethel. That would have been in '93.
And who was you coaching with?
Coach Kaz was the head coach, and I was working with him and the Incormedius family and DeRock Kroom, who had played at Hampton High as well as Hampton University. And this was the year after they won the state championship with Fowler and Iverson in that group.
Right.
So that was a great experience for me. But one of the things that I was encountering by working for social services, I would often not make practice on time because I was in court or doing things that I needed to do to, provide for the kids that I had in my care. And so that inspired me, just that 1 year of coaching, to know that I wanted to coach. So with that being in mind, I went on and I applied to Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee, got accepted as a student, and went there and got my graduate degree in guidance and counseling. So that's how I got into coaching.
All right. But when you went down to Tennessee, you ended up with more than just a degree.
Yes, sir. I met my wife here, and we dated, and I thought I was going to be able to move on and do some things, but my wife and I, we stayed close and stayed in close contact. And in 1996, actually 95, I proposed to her, and we got married. And out of that union, we have 3 beautiful boys, and William, John, and David. And so that was just a blessing. And my wife is she currently works here in Hampton. She's a farmer's insurance agent, if I might add that, right here in Hampton.
Very good.
Valerie Beverly.
Now, in 2008, you did something. Again, you did something.
Yes, sir.
You started the
Tri-City Hurricanes Youth Football and Cheerleading League. Yes, sir. And currently, we're in our 4th year. We're part of the Peninsula Youth Football Association, which I believe has been in existence since 1968. And this league is, I named it Tri-City because being from Hampton and currently living outside of Hampton, I wanted to be able to bring kids from all over the area to our team. So currently, we're based out of Newport News, and but we have kids from all the localities around on the peninsula.
That's the Tri-City.
Yes, sir. And last year, we had, out of our 4 teams, we actually sent 2 to the playoffs, which was our 3rd year in existence. So pretty proud of that. And the kids do a great job. We have a lot of parental support because anytime you have an organization with volunteerism, the parents drive that. So just fortunate to be able to give back to the communities that have been so gracious to me and my family. And it's been a great experience. Yes, sir.
I know. We want to talk about Lindsay Middle School.
Yes, sir.
We got a shirt here, and I'm talking to you, and we're walking through the hall, and you say, "Look at that shirt."
Yes,
One
sir.
of your teachers has a shirt on
Yes,
with
sir.
the print, because evidently you've taken all what you learned from sports,
Yes, sir.
and you have applied it to what's happening over at Lindsay. Talk about that.
And you're exactly correct. Again, I've been blessed by God to just be in the midst of some great people, working under and being under Coach Kozlowski as a player and also an employee, and Coach Taylor. One of the things that was always important was that we evaluated the players.
Right.
And when we evaluated players, some of the things that we used, some of the bullets that we would use were things that I thought to be successful in life, you needed to have. And the first one was alignment. You know, and you think about life, you have to align yourself with good people.
Right.
You have to make sure that you put yourself in a situation where the people that you're around have some of the same core values and some of the same things that you like to have in life to be successful. So alignment. The second was technique. You know, technique is how you go about doing what you do.
Right.
And you translate that right into football. You can get lined up properly and use wrong technique. Wrong.
It doesn't make any difference.
Right, it doesn't make any difference. So I felt like technique in our building at Lindsay Middle School is extremely important, not only from a student standpoint, but how our teachers relate to the student, building those relationships, greeting the students, how they relate to parents.
Right.
And lastly, and I tell the students as well as the teachers at Lindsay Middle School, this one is uncompromisable. We won't compromise, and that's the effort. You know, sometimes you can align yourself with good people. You can use proper technique, but you have to put the effort into whatever it is that you're pursuing, whether it be an athletic event, whether it be making sure that our students are in the best school in Hampton City Schools, which I feel that they are, or whether it be in a relationship, with, whether it's your wife or any sort of relationship, you have to put the effort there. And for you to put that effort there, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. So we've incorporated that into the core pillars of what we do at Lindsay Middle School. If you go to our website, Lindsay Middle School website, if you go to Tri-City Hurricanes website, and we have shirts that our teachers wear on Friday primarily. Some of the students will be getting them towards the end of the year. But those shirts say alignment, technique, and effort, because we feel like to be successful at Lindsay Middle School, those three core pillars have to be in place. And if they're in place, we're going to be all right.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, I had a gentleman here, Kevin Swan, who was a preacher now, and I said, well, how did you go from sports to preaching? He said, it was easy.
Yes,
he
sir.
said, playbook, you got to have it. He said, I got what's called the Bible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I got a coach, he's called God.
Right.
So, you know, but I see where you have taken this, or we're going to ramp this thing up, but I see the passion that you have.
Yes, sir.
For what's happening over at Lindsay Middle School.
Yes, sir.
It's just try to, one more time, come over, and if you have, talking to some parents, and they have a chance to come into Lindsay, what would you tell them that their kids are going to experience over there?
Well, it's a couple things I would tell them that they're going to experience. One of the things that we're actually going through right now is we're becoming an international baccalaureate school. We're in the process, we're actually a candidate school, and we're actually already been through all of the application phases, and we're just waiting to be basically commissioned, and that should happen sometime this month. So I would tell them they would get a very diverse education when they come to Lindsay Middle School. I would also tell them that when they leave Lindsay Middle School, they're going to have some core values that are going to, we're not going to try to change how they raise their child, but we're going to try to instill in them some core hard-working values, and that is alignment. We're going to make sure that those kids understand that to be successful, not only in school, not only at Lindsay Middle School, that you have to make sure that you watch who you're hanging out with. Make sure that you align yourself with good, strong people that have faith, whatever their faith may be. Mine happen to be Jesus Christ, but they need to align themselves with people that have these core values. Technique. You know, often the young folks, and I was young at one point. I think I'm still young now, at least.
You are compared to me.
Well, I don't know. You look just like I left you, Coach Hintz. But we feel like those kids have to understand that how you go about doing what you're doing is the technique is extremely, extremely important. I think folks leave out sir and ma'am a lot. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes those are the things that are instrumental, especially in this day and time, with letting people know that you have some values and that you understand that there is an order. Right. And so technique is extremely important, how you go about doing what you're doing. And I would also tell those parents that their students, when they leave Lindsay Middle School, they're going to know what it is to put effort in anything that they're doing. And that's going to transfer not only to the athletic field, but it's going to transfer hopefully into their careers. And hopefully if they go on and become a husband or a wife, it's going to transfer into their relationships. So I will tell them, and we tell them at our orientations, and our kids are memorizing, and most of them know alignment, technique, and effort. We call it being ate up.
Being ate up.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir. So it's extremely a blessing to be at Lindsay Middle School and, you know, kind of go full circle because I came back there through Bethel High School. Right. And tell you one other story, Coach Karachikas, he's an assistant principal at Bethel High School.
Right.
He was also one of my assistant coaches at Northampton. So when I came back to Bethel High School in '07 as an assistant principal, I was working with Coach Karachikas. He's currently an assistant principal there. I believe he's close to retirement age.
Yeah, I know Johnny right well.
Yes, sir. So that was again, it was fun going back and working with him, and he hasn't changed one bit.
Well, let me tell you, I love your passion.
Yes, sir.
I love your
yes,
passion.
Sir.
I just think it's awesome.
Thank you.
We want to thank you for tuning in to LSC and Sports Time. I also want to thank my special guest, William Beverly, principal over at Lindsay Middle School. I'm your host, Bob Hintz. Until next time.